Jon Jones is the greatest MMA fighter of all time, and he recently posted a video of himself squatting 525 pounds for reps. Per usual, the internet has lost its collective shit, and I want to go over it with you. First things first, I want you to watch his squat before I comment it. I'm gonna read the caption that he wrote out loud. Once you watch the squats and I read the caption, we're gonna dive more in detail. Jon wrote, "Today we worked on the top part of my squat. I finished up at 525 pounds for a set of 3 reps. It's awesome to feel my strength coming back while shredding pounds at the same time. I got 18 weeks and 3 days to improve, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Progress equals happiness. Sacrifice today, smile tomorrow. Find your personal love for self-improvement." Now, before we look at his technique or look at the equipment he's using or look at all the comments, which are absolutely wild, let's just very quickly read the first sentence he wrote one more time. "Today we worked on the top part of my squat." So looking at this squat, I knew immediately people in the comments were going to be freaking out because he's not going ass to grass. Never mind the fact that this is what he's specifically working on, the top part of his squat. Let's just talk about what an MMA fighter needs in order to be a high-level MMA fighter, a mixed martial arts fighter. A lot of people who are in CrossFit or strength coaches in general, they think everybody needs to squat ass to grass. That's not true. Not everybody needs to squat ass to grass. Not to mention, Jon Jones is super tall. I don't know off the top of my head. We'll find out the information and put it up right here. He's a super tall guy. And if you work with very tall athletes, whether it's fighters, football players, basketball players, very rarely will you ever see them squatting ass to grass because you don't need to if you're that freaking tall. And for your specific sport, it might not be worth the risk that's involved, especially with very heavy weight. I actually really like that he's doing this high box squat, specifically because he's being very clear and defined. My goal is to improve the top part of my squat, which I would imagine is far more important for an MMA fighter, especially someone who's striking, maybe even has more of a wrestling base, because very rarely, if not ever, and I grew up wrestling, I do jujitsu, like I'm involved in mixed martial arts. I've never found myself in a deep squat position when I'm fighting, ever. I have found myself in more of a half squat position all the time. So for the specific demands of his sport, this makes all the sense in the world. We're only seeing one set of 3 reps. We're not seeing anything else that he's doing. So he could very well be squatting very deep in other workouts and in other training phases, just not in this one that we're seeing a teeny tiny snapshot of. So don't be so quick to judge someone's entire workout based on 3 reps. Now, another thing he says in the caption is, "It's awesome to feel my strength coming back while I'm shredding pounds at the same time," which lets us know Jon is eating in a calorie deficit. Jon is trying to lose weight while gaining strength. And there's a lot to be said for increasing the intensity, increasing the amount of weight you're using while you're losing body fat. There's no question that as you're in a calorie deficit and as you're losing body fat, it gets more and more difficult to gain strength, which is why it becomes even more important to progressively overload and add more of a strength stimulus, so at the very least you can maintain your strength, if not, in this case, like he said he's doing, actually gaining strength. So for some people who are saying he's lifting too heavy, he shouldn't be doing this, that's the exact opposite. He's got 18 weeks till the fight. He's got plenty of time. This is the best time for him to be lifting as heavy as possible before he steps into the cage. Now, before we look at his technique, I want you to look at the bar he's using. This is called a safety squat bar, or an SS bar for short. It's one of my personal favorite pieces of equipment. I have one in my garage. It's one of the first pieces of equipment that I bought for my home gym. It's an amazing bar, not just because it's more comfortable, although that is one of the main benefits, also because the way that the bar is positioned, it actually pushes you forward a little bit. It forces you to use much more upper back than you would with a straight bar. I'm not saying it's better than a straight bar, but it does offer unique benefits that a straight bar doesn't offer. So for someone who wants to really work on their upper back, their posture, their strength, especially for someone, let's say in a fight, someone's pulling on your head and you have to have really good posture to stay upright, doing this is, I think, the best squat variation you can do. Now, as for the box, we know it's a little bit higher. That's totally fine. I have no problem with a higher box, like I said. What's interesting to me, and I see a lot of people in the comments not understanding, is why he has this cushion on top of the box. Most people would look at this and oftentimes be worried, oh my God, your spine is gonna round, this isn't gonna be safe. This is, number one, it's very safe. Number two is, it's not like he's using a pillow that's really soft. It's a pretty sturdy cushion. It's a wonderful variation because as he sits into this cushion, it is essentially absorbs a lot of his force, which will now make it more difficult for him to stand up and out of. Whereas if he sat on a hard, flat surface, it would actually be easier for him to stand back up. Because if you think about it, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. If you're deadlifting, for example, and the bar hits the ground or the weights hit the ground, you can immediately pull them right back up and they feel lighter, because with the same amount of weight and force that the weights hit the ground is hitting those weights right back, so you're actually lifting less weight. When you have a cushion here, you're not able to bounce off the cushion. The cushion is absorbing your force, so now he has to actually use more energy and more strength and more power to accelerate off of the cushion. It's a wonderful training tool, and if you watch as he sits on it, he doesn't get loose, he still stays tight. It's a really great option for him to improve his force transfer, improve his strength, improve his performance without having to sit all the way down to a very, very low box. I mean, this is, whoever his strength coach is thought this out very well, and they're doing a wonderful job not only with the programming here, but the execution and the spotting. Everything here is done super well. Now, before I look at his technique, there is one thing I think he can do a little bit better. When we look at how he unracks the bar, I want you to pay attention to this. He gets under the bar, he stands up, and I actually want to count this with you. He takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He picks his feet up 5 times before he gets in the right position to squat. Now, with 525 pounds on his back, that's a lot of wasted energy. If he was a power lifter and competing in powerlifting, I would say this is something we absolutely need to fix. Because he's not a power lifter, I'm not that worried about it. It might reduce a risk of injury during the unrack. So I would like to see he just picks the bar up, 1 step back, another step back, boom, he's in position. Make it just a little bit more efficient. Not that big of a deal. Clearly, I'm nitpicking here, but if I had to pick something he could do better, that would really be it. In terms of his squat technique, everything else looks great. He's sitting back, he's keeping his chest tall, he's staying tight, and he's using as much force as he possibly can to accelerate it. You can see in his face, this isn't more of a relaxed squat. He's giving this everything he has. And one thing a lot of people overlook in terms of overall strength training, but especially strength training for performance, is your intent really matters. It's not just about how heavy you can lift or how fast you can lift. It's also about the intent for you to lift as heavy or as explosively or as quickly as possible. And his intent is clearly there. You know, it's actually really funny. I've seen many professional athletes from many different sports lift weights. I think the majority of them don't really know what they're doing. In this case, John Jones clearly knows what he's doing, and he has a great team of coaches behind him. I don't know who they are, but they're doing awesome. And I have no issue calling out when I see someone doing something inappropriately or badly, but this was not that example. He did a phenomenal job. And so for you and for anyone watching, it might be a good idea, a good practice to, when you see someone in the gym or you see someone posting something online, just remember, you're seeing a teeny tiny snapshot of what they're doing, and it doesn't tell you everything you need to know about them or their programming or their knowledge. There could be many reasons, and hopefully there are many reasons as to why they're doing what they're doing. It doesn't necessarily tell you how advanced they are, how beginner they are, how knowledgeable they are. It's best to just keep your thoughts to yourself, and generally speaking, I found anytime you notice yourself thinking negatively about someone without much information, catch yourself on it and try and think of something positive instead, because odds are they probably know something that you don't. They're doing their best to improve themselves, and even if they're doing something wrong, their intent is probably in the right place. With all that said, if you like this video and if you need help with your own workouts and if you want some ideas on how to improve your own strength and performance, I encourage you to check out my inner circle. The link is in the description of this video. Every month I put out new programs, new gym-based programs. So if you have a full gym, we have that. Dumbbell-only programs, we've got bodyweight programs, we've got everything you could need from strength, conditioning, mobility, all of it. You can choose between 3 times a week and 4 times a week training options. Never mind, we've got a calorie tracker, consistency tracker. You can track your weight, your measurements, your pictures. It's basically a one-size-fits-all fitness app for your strength, mobility, conditioning, nutrition, performance, mindset, all of it. Link is in the description. I would love to have you join. If not, no worries. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you don't already. Have a wonderful week. I'll talk to you soon.